Luke Y. Thompson of New Times calls this movie extremely weird and certainly not for everyone, yet very, very brilliant in its own strange way. Sean Mulvihill of FanboyNation.com calls it an aggressively bizarre movie, a mashup of conflicting sensibilities that would only work for a niche audience. And Letterboxd user Gene Parmesan claims to have watched this during the attempted MAGA coup on the U.S. Capitol, led by outgoing President Donald J. Trump, the ultimate fancy lad. On this episode of Ruined Childhoods, we decide the fate of Cabin Boy.
Sequel. Reboot. Which one will it be? It's the Ruined Childhoods podcast.
Greetings, Starfighters.
Hey, Dan and Starfighters.
Hi, John.
We are recording in person. Since the last episode, we claimed that we would be recording this up at a cabin at Mount Hood here in Oregon. We were at Mount Hood earlier, but we decided to come back to Portland, and here we are recording, but we're in person, which is so exciting.
It's like we're just having a regular conversation here with a bunch of audio gear set up in between us.
I know, and if it sounds any different, it's because we're recording on some new gear that I got that I haven't had a chance to play with before just now. So
we know that's what you're thinking is, wait a second, something sounds off, something sounds different. That's exactly what you're thinking. Wonder no more. We want you to be able to focus your cognitive energy on our discussion of Cabin Boy.
Yes. Dan, before we begin, I think that this news broke after we recorded our last episode. The pour one out of all pour one outs to Charles Grodin.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you know what? I think the news broke like the day before, and it occurred to me that we did not? But we are making up for it like right now.
It's one of those that just like hits you way harder. I don't know. There was just like, there are some people where it's just like, someday we're going to be living in a world without this person. And
accepted it.
I never thought about that for Charles Grodin. I just kind of always imagined he would, be around. I don't know. It's not like he's been in anything recently, but
right. Yeah, no, he's kind of like, he had stepped away. And I mean, yeah, it makes sense that Charles Grodin is older now than he was in like 1988 when he made Midnight Run. And you're like, wait a second, how could Charles Grodin die? But he's one of those actors. And I think for us, it's like our generation, we are starting to see some of those like standbys, the stars who were there in all of the movies we saw growing up, from, there's Beethoven, Clifford, and Taking Care of Business. Mm-hmm. And then the other ones that came out in the 80s, but that I would say were not as much childhood favorites, but more recent, Midnight Run, Ishtar.
Yes. Oh my God. He's so great in Ishtar.
Jim, I'd like to go over the Shira Assel situation with you. As one agent to another, I've heard the Emir is a prick.
Really? Well, we'll have to look into that. But the main thing is to get you out of town before you're recognized. Do you know anything about the desert?
Yeah. That's where Las Vegas is. Cute, huh?
That is cute, yeah. That's where Las Vegas is. It's a good one. Remember that. It's a good one. Yeah. You can stop pointing now. Oh. Stand up. Yeah. There's 2 canteens and a compass in here.
2 canteens, compass.
You and Lau walk out of town. Walk southeast.
Southeast.
In a couple of hours, you'll run into the Harridan Oasis.
Harridan Oasis. How do we know?
You'll know it. You can't miss it. We'll pick you up there. Mm-hmm. Move the camel. Move the camel. The camel. Move the camel.
Move the camel. Where?
Anywhere. He's on my foot.
Oh.
Sorry. What the hell's the matter with that camel? Is he blind?
Yeah.
The other one that I love him in is Heaven Can Wait, which is like a different type of role for him.
Yeah.
Darling, listen to me. There is nothing to be frightened of. There's plenty to be worried about, but there is nothing to be frightened of. Dearest, are you all right? Can I trust you? Can I trust you? Yes, dearest?
You locked me in a closet.
Only for a moment.
What did you say to him?
I told him you saw a mouse.
Oh, my God.
But darling, look, I'm not very good
my
at spur-of-the-moment
God, a mouse.
alibis. I'm very calm. I'm not very good.
What's the difference? He knows anyway. He's probably got enough evidence to lock us away for the rest of our lives.
Darling, I don't understand this. I saw him inhale the nose spray, 2 full squirts in each
He never
nostril.
really inhaled it, did he? I mean, he overheard us somehow. That must have been what had happened. I mean, maybe he's got us bugged right now. Maybe everything is recorded.
No,
Why
darling,
not?
we're not being recorded. An electronics expert sweeps the place every day. He's afraid of being bugged too, darling.
He's
No.
playing with us. That's what it is. This is a game. Oh, my God, he's playing a game with us. That's what it is. You locked me in a closet.
He's, you know, a little bit more schemy and sketchy and like just not the type of Charles Grodin I think of when I think of him in like Dave.
Right. Oh, well, yeah.
Right.
Dave,
Or-
he's extremely likable.
Or in So I Married an Ex-Murderer, where he's the guy whose car is being commandeered by Anthony LaPaglia.
Oh, that's, yes.
The curmudgeonly guy.
Excuse me, sir. I'm with the San Francisco Police Department. This is official police business. I would like to commandeer this vehicle.
No.
What do you mean, no?
I happen to know for a fact that you don't have the right to commandeer my vehicle.
Please, can I commandeer this vehicle?
No.
You're just not gonna bend on this commandeering thing, are you?
No. Would you mind not doing that?
This bothers you?
No, it's one of my favorite things.
Yes, he was so good at that, the curmudgeonly thing
Yeah.
in Beethoven again.
Yeah. Oh, famously, yeah.
Yeah, and the schemy, like you see that a little bit in Ishtar, but man, I just like, you know, I love Midnight Run.
Yeah.
And his work in Midnight Run is so phenomenal. And it's in the archives. We did our
Yeah.
episode on Midnight Run. But just watching him,
He's doing his best work in that movie for sure.
yes, though it's hard to say that that's his best. Like, there's so many other movies he did in, especially in like the early 80s, that he was just so much like that guy. Like he's really one of the only actors that I can think about that could just hit like that character
Right, yeah.
so well. And like the kind of like, you know, grumpy put upon dad, like other
Yes.
actors like Steve Martin has done that, but not to the like just pitch perfect way that Charles Grodin
Oh,
approached
yeah.
those characters. So we're pouring out a big one for Charles Grodin.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and we're going to pour out another one for Gavin MacLeod.
Yeah,
who-
which the day
yeah.
we're recording this, the
Yeah.
news broke about that one. So we're being a little bit more current about that and certainly pour one out, Gavin MacLeod. Dan, news-wise, and this is maybe like pretty old news by the time this is coming out, but how are you feeling about Timothée Chalamet as young Willy Wonka?
How about how am I feeling about young Willy Wonka, period?
Right. I mean, yes, I agree. But I know that if I'm remembering correctly, you didn't absolutely hate Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory? Or no, is
The
it
Tim
Charlie
Burton,
and
Charlie and the
Charlie
Chocolate Factory. Yeah, I didn't hate it as much as most people did. And I also don't have the like all-consuming love for the 1971 Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. I do. There are aspects of it that I think are wonderful. I think Gene Wilder,
The Gene Wilder of it, yeah.
yeah, like that's the thing is no one will ever touch Gene Wilder in that
Yeah.
in that role. And yeah, I know. I'm sure there are like actors yet to be born who would make good Willy Wonkas. And Timothy Chalamet is very talented.
Yeah. And honestly, it's like, if it has to be done, he's the right person for it. But
I guess it depends on, it depends on where you're going with it.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're going to try to just expand the backstory that Tim Burton did in 2005.
I imagine so, where it's like the child of a dentist.
Yeah. I mean, well, Christopher Lee is no longer with us.
Right.
Who played Willy Wonka's father.
Yeah.
In that. Yeah. And I've seen that one more recently, the Tim Burton one, because after, I think it was last summer, that I read Charlie and the Chocolate Factory to my now 7-year-old daughter, Chloe. And we, our tradition is we read the book and then we watch the movie. I kind of gave her the choice between the two, and she picked the 2005 version, which is a more faithful adaptation of the book.
How did she choose? What were the things that informed her decision?
We showed her trailers.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I think it for a modern day kid, when they see those two,
right?
The Tim Burton one is flashier and it seems a lot more high paced, a lot more frenetic. Yeah. So she went with that one, and I think she liked it. And I don't know if she's ever going to want to. At some point, we'll watch the Gene Wilder.
Right.
But I'm not a huge fan. I don't love all the songs.
Gotcha. Yeah, there are some good ones. Certainly when they're on the boat going down the river.
Well, yeah. And I don't even really think of as like a musical number.
Right.
It's not a song, but like Cheer Up Charlie stops the whole thing dead in its tracks.
Yeah. And it's funny how long it takes them to get to the chocolate factory. And there are some parts of it that I like, when the reveals happen for each of the kids and stuff like that. But anyway.
Yeah, the kids are all great in the original. I mean, like those performances are iconic.
Right.
For every one of those kids. Like the portrayal of the kids.
Sure.
I like so much better in the 1971.
Yes.
And Grandpa Joe, Jack Albertson, in the 1971 version, the reveal of when he when they find out and he jumps out of the bed.
Yeah. It's funny because that movie seems like, and I know that we're far from talking about Cabin Boy, and maybe it's just because I'm trying to put it off, but
we're not. There's a Tim Burton connection.
There certainly is a Tim Burton connection. But before we get to that, I just want to point out that like the 1971 Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, it almost feels like it's starting off like one of those like Pippi Longstocking or Apple Dumpling Gang, like one of those types of movies. Oliver. And then it just like takes some weird turns.
Well,
and I mean, largely thanks to Gene Wilder, but
the direction. I mean, that shit gets trippy.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's no surprise because Oliver won Best Picture for 1968.
Okay.
So it makes sense that this chart that Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory would veer in that direction. It's also really interesting. And I feel like when I first saw Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, I might have seen it in the movie theater. I have some vague, not during its original release, of course.
Yeah.
I would have had to time travel for that.
Right.
But I think I saw it in one of those, like, it's a weekday morning. We're showing kids movies at the Westfield Rialto. I have I for some reason have some memory of seeing it at the Westfield Rialto and seeing it. I mean, this is where my mind starts to like mix things together. But I have these really like, I just have this strong memory of seeing Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory in the theater, and they ran trailers before it for like current movies that were not kids movies. Like for some reason, the trailer for The Eye of the Needle, the Donald Sutherland spy thriller,
oh my goodness,
sticks out in my head. And maybe I could be mixing. My mind could be like creating amalgam of memories in my mind, but that's what I recall. And I don't know where I was going with this, but I remember like later on being very surprised that it was 1971 because Gene Wilder was a fairly fresh face in movies. I mean, you know, he's in Bonnie and Clyde. He's got a great supporting small role in Bonnie and Clyde, but he's really great in it. And then The Producers,
right,
of course. But then Willy Wonka comes pretty soon after that. It's pre-Blazing Saddles. It's pre-Young Frankenstein, pre-Silver Streak.
Well, yeah.
I'd say
any of the Richard Pryor collabs.
Right. So when you look back and you see that, like, oh wow, so this was really early in his career as a movie star, but he carries that movie.
Yes.
So fantastically.
Absolutely. You're not going to hear many people argue that.
No, that's true. It's kind of sacrilege. Like, even if someone did not think that Gene Wilder was very good as Willy Wonka, they would not say it. It's you're less likely to hear someone praising the 2005 Charlie and the Chocolate Factory than disparaging the 1971.
Yes, the 2005 directed by Tim Burton, who produced, was I guess allegedly maybe originally going to direct, but ended up producing with Denis Denovi, his producing partner.
The story is that he had approached the writer and eventual director of Cabin Boy, Adam Resnick, about writing a script for him to direct. And I'm not sure if Chris Elliott was involved in that as well, or if Adam Resnick just looped Chris Elliott in because they were close and they worked on Get a Life.
Right. So Get a Life was before this.
Get a Life was before this. Get a Life premiered.
By the way, we're talking about Cabin Boy.
Yes, we're talking about the movie Cabin Boy today. It came out in 1994, and it is remembered. It's funny. So a little crossover here with work, because for those who might be new, who may have thought, I've never listened to this podcast before, but Cabin Boy, I've got to check this out.
It's a cult classic.
It has become one.
Yeah.
It has become one. And I teach high school language arts, and I was working with my kids on creating research-based informational presentations and just kind of giving them some options as to how to do it. And I was modeling creating a website using Adobe Spark. So not complicated web design, but still enough to get the message across. And I was just kind of trying to come up with something without doing too much extra work. So I was like, well, I'm going to make my topic about the films of 1994. And the whole thing was that the whole thing for the students was that they lead into an argument, that all their informational research leads into an argument paper. And I was like, okay, so my argument, my claim is going to be that 1994 was the highest quality year in film history, or like the best year in film history. So I did this whole website about the films of 1994 and talking about all the blockbuster hits, mentioning some of the cult hits, mentioning like Jim Carrey, who's
big year for Jim Carrey.
Yeah. And Cabin Boy did not enter the picture, but Cabin Boy would have appeared on a slide or on a page that would have been of the like lowest rated, lowest grossing, lowest regarded films of 1994. But this came after. So Get a Life premiered in fall 1990. This was a sitcom on Fox where Chris Elliott played a 30-year-old who still lives. He's a paper boy who lives with his parents.
Yeah.
And he's kind of this oblivious idiot who thinks that he's got everything figured out, and that nobody else does.
Right.
And it was a really fun show. I haven't seen it in several years, but it was, I mean, one of the few times REM has like licensed their music for a TV show.
That's right. Yeah.
Stand was the opening song, but Chris Elliott starred in that show and co-created it. And this was building off of his popularity from being on The Late Show with David Letterman.
Sure. Yeah. He was just one of those characters, one of those people that just pops up every now and then and does something completely ridiculous. He was the guy under the stairs.
Guy under the seats. The guy under the seats. Yeah.
I think that might have also been the name of his memoir, his book.
Was it The Guy Under the Seats?
I think The Guy Under the Seats. And just like super weird dude. And he just really committed to all of his characters, and the more absurd, the better. And what I love about Chris Elliott, and this is going further in his career to actually kind of pseudo present day, but he thrives at becoming an undesirable character, like the way that he is in There's Something About Mary, or in Schitt's Creek, where he plays Roland Shit. And it's just like the more disgusting and weird he can be, the more comfortable he feels in his characters.
Right, which I have to say, I've been a fan of his work. I enjoyed Get a Life, but I do have to say, in terms of like his acting, and I don't think he claims to be any great type of actor outside of comedy.
Yeah.
But his work in Schitt's Creek, I feel like that's like his most nuanced character.
I agree.
That and let's not forget his role in Groundhog Day.
Right.
The cameraman.
He's the
whose
cameraman.
name I forget.
Yeah, I don't remember his name either, but this cameraman who's just always trying to hit on women and pick up women, who's terrible at it. And, for anybody else, it would be kind of just a whatever character, but he puts something into this character that really turns it into, gives it more dimension.
He's a likable character also,
sure,
because for a good portion of the movie, Phil Connors, Bill Murray's character, is a much bigger asshole.
So unlikable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Chris Elliott has done quite a bit. And also, his father, Bob Elliott,
of Bob and Ray,
comedy legend. Absolutely. We've seen him in Quick Change.
Right.
And he played Chris Elliott's father, both on Get a Life, and plays him in Cabin Boy.
Sure. Yeah.
Briefly.
Yeah. Briefly. Yeah. And, talking about the Elliott family, Abby Elliott, his daughter, was on Saturday Night Live. She's been in, a bunch of little things here and there. I think some sitcoms and things like that.
And Chris was on Saturday in mid-90s.
Right. And then Bridie Elliott, she is an amazingly hilarious person. I highly recommend following her on social media. But also she directed a movie starring their whole family called Clara's Ghost. And she's a tremendous talent. She was a guest on my old podcast, Hey Teens, and she was a delight. And what a family. Just truly talented people. And I'm happy that they do what they do.
Absolutely. I mean, we wouldn't be here having this conversation if they didn't. I mean, we'd be here having a different conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it wouldn't be it wouldn't be about Cabin Boy, either that, or it would be about Cabin Boy starring someone different. And no, because he co-wrote it. So
yeah.
So, and speaking of co-writer, let's not forget Adam Resnick,
right?
Who wrote one of our mutually favorite comedies, Death to Smoochie. Yeah, Smoochie the Rhino.
Yeah. So which IRL we mentioned earlier today. We're because on the last episode we were talking about Fletch Lives and how
the chef
Don Brockett was in Fletch Lives, and then how to me he feels like the spinner done in real life for Mr. Rogers. So Adam Resnick has also written on the show Divorce on HBO, which is excellent. Thomas Hayden Church and Sarah Jessica Parker. Molly Shannon is also in that, and she's fantastic. And wrote on Saturday Night Live in the 90s. I'm sure that's where he and Chris Elliott linked up at first? Maybe
No, they linked up prior
Get
to
a
that.
Life?
Yeah, they linked up.
David Letterman?
Yeah, they linked up on Letterman, yeah.
Yeah. So it's nice to have that kind of history, to see that kind of thing come through. And in terms of directing, let me see.
He did not direct, to the best of my knowledge, Adam Resnick has not directed since Cabin Boy.
He directed the 1995 Academy Awards ceremony,
which was hosted by David Letterman.
There you go.
On which he mocked Cabin Boy.
Did he really?
Yeah.
Oh, let's try to find that clip and put it in right here.
You know, someone once said that acting is the enchanted wand that turns words into magic. Thankfully, we've had that person dragged out to the parking lot and beaten. I'm talking about words like, I could have been a contender. Here's looking at you, kid. Life is like a box of chocolates. All shining examples of how a few simple words become cinematic legend. Last year, as the global film community knows, I made my big screen debut in a little something called Cabin Boy. And I, too, was lucky enough to turn words into magic. Watch closely.
Would you like to buy a monkey?
Why don't we enjoy that again?
Would you like to buy a monkey?
But you know, as with all great work, I was not the first or only choice. Here now, take a look at some of my fellow actors who auditioned for this plum role.
Would you like to buy a monkey?
Would you like to buy a monkey?
I can do one bigger.
Want to buy a donkey?
Monkey.
I'm confused. I thought I was playing the monkey.
What's the matter? You don't like monkeys?
I like monkey. You like monkey?
Listen here. I'm not going to ask you again. I'm going to ask you one more time. You want to buy the monkey or not?
Huh? Whew. And I can do it in German or anything.
I want you to buy this monkey.
Could you clear my eye line, please, back there? Could everybody get out of my eye line? Thank you.
Would you like to buy a monkey?
Mexican monkey. Happy.
Hey, mister, wanna buy a monkey?
Would you like to buy a monkey?
buy a monkey.
Would you like to buy a monkey?
Monkey waiting for a phone call.
Monkey!
Monkey after a big meal.
You buy the monkey! You big mama, look, what's the matter with you, huh? I'm gonna smack you upside the head!
Oh, my.
So, anyway, Cabin Boy, and this is all going to be off the dome because I did not write this one out in advance. Full disclosure, I just moved into a new home, and that takes a lot of time and energy, not a lot of time to sit down and write the plot synopsis for Cabin Boy.
But no better movie to cover on a week when you don't have time to take detailed notes.
Totally. Oh my God. Well, because it's so easy to remember so many bizarre facts about that movie just because they stand out. So,
it's a bizarre movie. I haven't seen it since. I didn't see it in the theaters, but I saw it on VHS.
Me too. And I remembered certain things, and we'll come around to that. But I honestly can't remember, okay, full disclosure, I was watching it and I had to text Dan, just so I'm not crazy, does this movie look like it's shot on a camcorder, or is something wrong with my TV? And he just wrote back camcorder. And
HD does this movie no favors. It looks like it reminded So the scene, a good portion of the movie takes place on this boat, the Filthy Whore,
right?
And a lot of the scenes that are shot on the deck of the ship look like behind the scenes footage, kind of like when you'd watch and I'm sure they still air these, but like HBO would do like a behind the scenes, like a 20-minute like behind the scenes thing for like a current theatrical release, and it was like when they would show like the making of The Perfect Storm, and it's like they're standing on the boat, and it's like in the behind the scenes footage you can clearly see, you know, like the machine that's rocking the boat and the water, the water hitting the backdrop.
No, it looks like an SNL sketch that takes place in a boat.
Here's the thing is, like, in the finished product of the movie, it doesn't look that way, but except for Cabin Boy, where you actually do see the water splashing against the backdrop. And there's so much weird, like, random anachronistic shit in this movie that just, it's like, when the hell does this take place?
But also, like, in a way, I feel almost like Chris Elliott would have said, like, no, let's actually do that. Like, let's keep it as weird as possible. And I think that in terms of money, it's super cheap to do. So,
well, that's
why not?
That's kind of what happened with Get a Life, where the Fox executives basically gave up on giving them notes,
right?
Because they just kept making these bizarre, and Fox was a relatively new network at the time, and they were known for pushing boundaries. Married with Children was one of their big hits. The Simpsons, which Get a Life followed The Simpsons. It was on after it had The Simpsons as its lead-in 1990.
Wow,
when every American watched The Simpsons.
Yeah,
and Get a Life was it was bizarre, and there was like, you know, an episode where Chris Elliott thinks he's going to become a male model, and he goes,
the Handsome Boy
Modeling School, right?
So, all right, I'm going to get into the synopsis for Cabin Boy.
Yes.
All right, so Chris Elliott plays Nathaniel Mayweather, who has graduated from Fancy Lad School. I don't remember the exact name of it, and upon graduating, he is about to embark on his journey to go back to his family in Hawaii aboard the Queen Catherine. On the way to the Queen Catherine in his limo dryer has had enough of his shit and kicks him out. And on his walk to try to get to the Queen Catherine, where he is so afraid of breaking a sweat, for he has never done a lick of exercise, he comes across a sign pointing to the Queen Catherine. But the cow that is blocking the sign happens to be blocking the arrow pointing in the other direction. So, thinking that he's on his way to the Queen Catherine, ends up in a very small fishing village where he comes across a sock monkey salesman played by David Letterman, who assures him that the Queen Catherine is just up the way a little bit. And as it turns out, this salty guy happens to really hate the fancy lads. So that's kind of his revenge is sending Nathaniel aboard this stinky fishing vessel, which is being guarded by Andy Richter's character, Kenny. That's right, Kenny. And Kenny is a total dimwit. And there's a lack of communication, and Nathaniel assures him that his family knows the captain and he should have the finest quarters and the best food. And when he gets on this stinky old fishing vessel, thinks that it's a theme boat about stinky fishing vessels. And the fact that it is disgusting really shows him the amount of commitment they have given to this theme. So after they have already set sail, that's when the captain and the fishermen aboard notice that he is there. And among those is Rich Brinkley, who plays Captain Graybar, James Gammon, who plays Paps, who I remember most from Major League.
Major League, yeah.
We've got Brian Doyle Murray as Skunk, and from Tango and Cash, we have Brian James playing Big Teddy.
May I say, Brian James is like the MVP. Brian James delivers some lines in this that I laughed out loud about, and then like laughed out loud again thinking about them.
Yeah, it's kind of a perfect cast for a bunch of old stinky fishermen. And so they are on their way, and Nathaniel requests that they take him to Hawaii, and they're just like, hell no. He convinces Kenny in the dark of night to change course because it would be a nice surprise for the captain to end up on a vacation. So Kenny ends up bringing them into, I forget what it's called, but it's essentially the Bermuda Triangle.
Yeah.
And a giant storm throws Kenny overboard to his death. And I mean, this is super young Andy Richter.
Yeah.
Oh man, it was nice to see him playing just like, just as like this very young actor, trying to, being in a movie. I don't know what really he'd done before that.
Conan. I think he had just
a little bit, but barely
a year.
much. Yeah,
if,
a year.
If that.
Yeah. So there he was, this fresh-faced little Andy Richter. So as they are in the thick of this storm, they encounter a lot of fantastical beings, and the forces of nature are working against them. Meanwhile, because Kenny has been thrown overboard, they say to him, if you do all of the chores on the boat, we will take you to Hawaii. And so he becomes a cabin boy and is doing all of the chores. And on their way, they come across Trina, played by Melora Walters, who I know best from Magnolia.
Right. It's really hard to see her and not just expect her to like just do a couple of lines of blow.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
And she is this person who is trying to swim from Maryland to Maryland. I think that's what she said. I could be totally wrong on that, but it's some really bizarre thing. And Nathaniel sees her with her eyes closed floating and thinks that she's in trouble. Turns out she's just sleeping. So he ruins her entire journey, and for some reason she stays on board with them, and Nathaniel is like in love with her instantly. And I'm trying to remember.
There's
really,
nothing weird or creepy at all about it.
No, nothing weird.
No,
or
not
creepy
at
at
all.
At one point, is it Nathaniel who falls like overboard and goes into the ocean and is saved by
Chalky?
By Chalky, a half man, half shark, played by Russ Tamblyn, and who's wonderful. And this is good. Shortly after Twin Peaks' run. So
he falls. I forget. There's the part where they put him, where they put Chris Elliott like out on like the raft, and they're like, you're gonna be the lookout for a week.
They send him out, and he is just going completely crazy.
Isn't that when he meets Chalky?
I think so,
because he's hallucinating,
right?
And yeah, it's crazy. And there's all these crazy. Well, anyway, I don't want to veer us off the synopsis here.
I'm trying to remember exactly how it ended because I was like fighting to stay awake.
Well, because then it gets to, so of course he starts to grow on the crew, and they start to like him, and then they have to. What happens with the ship? It's damaged, and they have to land the ship on like
island.
the one. There's only one place where they can land it, and so they go ashore,
right?
And and Nathaniel is really into what's her name? Melora. What's her character's name again? Trina, right. Really into Trina, and really, wants to impress her, but he's a virgin.
Right.
And so they tell him, and they're like, oh, well, there's someone on this island who can...
Oh, I totally forgot all about this. It's super bizarre. Does she have like 6 arms or something?
Well, yeah, this part is fantastic because they're like, she lives in this cave up on the side of a mountain.
Right.
But like, she's like, sailors will basically go to her to get laid.
Yeah. And he goes off and says like something along the lines of like, I will leave a cabin boy and I will return a cabin man, which is one of the lines that I've remembered about this movie. It must have been like
it was in the trailer. It was
Yeah.
definitely in the trailer.
Yeah, and
that and these pipes are clean.
The pipes are clean, which comes back and there's something about Mary.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Because he suggests that Ben Stiller cleans the pipes.
Right. Yeah, so it's Ann Magnuson plays this mythical creature with 6 arms, and she's just kind of like sitting there hanging out, and he has sex with her. Yeah. And he leaves just feeling more confident and more assured. And of course, when he sees Trina, she is now like totally into him because she sees that he
is confident.
Is a confident man now, and he's like less of a douche.
Right. But the woman on this island has a very large husband. Like when I say large, I mean like 50 feet tall.
Well, yeah, he's a giant. So she's human size. Right. But he's a giant. But he comes in and what does he sell? He's got like
oh my God.
What's his business?
I can't even remember.
He's played by Mike Starr, who you would know I would say, I mean, like Mike Starr, he's Mulligan. That's his name is Mulligan. And you would know Mike Starr from Goodfellas. He's the airport security guy who helps them arrange the Lufthansa heist in Goodfellas, but you would know him from other things. And I have a little Mike Starr story, not a huge Mike Starr. Well, Mike Starr and I used to be somewhat like neighbors in North Jersey, and we would occasionally be on the same bus into Manhattan, and we would also be I would like see him. We'd both be at the Dunkin' Donuts for our coffee in the morning, and I never really had any interactions with him, but it was kind of I was like, Mike Starr. He was in Dumb and Dumber. He's the guy. Yes, he's the guy in Dumb and Dumber who they kill him with the hot sauce.
He's the gas man.
Yeah, the gas man. He's the gas man. So, but Mike Starr is awesome in this because he comes in and he's like, oh, God damn it, again. And he's like, it's such a funny scene because he's just like wearing a suit. Like he's just this regular guy coming back from the office, and that he's got this like business. He's got a store set up on the side of a mountain.
Right.
But he's like all frustrated, and he's like, yeah, but no, who's going to like, why would, no one's coming into my store.
Right. So he can tell that she has slept with somebody, and he has committed himself to finding whoever it is and kill them. So that is Nathaniel.
Says, I'm going to kick me some sailor boy ass.
Yeah. And he's going to kill him with a giant nail clipper. It's the strangest thing.
Yes.
And who saves him? Spoiler alert, Chalky.
Which, by the way, and I mean, we'll come back to this, but I feel like it's appropriate to say it now. Major Barb and Star vibes.
Oh, major.
I don't know
Barb
if I want to be any
vibes.
more specific about it, since Barb and Star is still a relatively recent movie.
Yeah,
and some people may not have seen it, but there is a like. I felt a few times in the movie, like I'm like, there's like a Barb and Star.
Well, and I feel like
bizarreness.
movies like this, and I want to say that, like, I was talking to somebody about this recently, but like movies like this really created a pathway for those types of movies, these absurd comedies. And in 94, it's no surprise that it would be kind of given, I don't know, like tiny budgets and, not considered all that serious. But when it shows to have a cult following the way the Cabin Boy does, it really proves that they're viable.
Yeah. There's some really interesting elements to this. Oh, so back to the synopsis before we go off.
Right. So they get to Hawaii. Oh, he kills Mike Starr with the
Mulligan
with his belt. He strangles him with a belt, and then they finally get to Hawaii. He offers them. So Nathaniel's father owns a hotel and offers them all jobs.
It looks like the Marriott.
Oh.
Like it looks like they're like that, like the Koalina Marriott there in Hawaii.
Yeah. So anyway, that's pretty much what happens. And it's a crazy ass movie.
Yeah, he offers them jobs, and it ends. It's Bob Elliott as his father, looking like Benjamin Franklin. Which it's like the look of this movie goes from being it's like either late 80s or late 18th century.
Yes. It
Like
starts
the
where you
fancy
don't
boys,
know. Yeah.
They're all with wigs.
Isn't Alfred Molina the professor?
Alfred Molina
My God.
is the professor at the Fancy Boys School.
Fancy Lad School. Right. And this movie, it just really goes into strange territories. And by the way, it ultimately ends with Nathaniel joining Trina and the fisherman back on the boat.
Right. He decides that's the life for him.
Sure. And I don't know. It's so bizarre.
It's so bizarre, and there's some parts that look like the budget and the quality are really terrible. But then there's these really cool they're almost like, it reminded me of Terry Gilliam's The Adventures of Baron Munchausen.
Yeah.
With the clouds
blowing. Yeah.
So that whole aspect of it, it felt. I don't know. It felt like there was maybe some potential for more. But it was like it just wasn't. Tonally, it was all over the place.
Absolutely, intentionally.
And like David Letterman is the sock monkey salesman. Like he's like, they're in this fishing village, which looks like it would be a maybe late 19th century fishing village. But he's got used TVs that he's selling.
It's so weird. Has David Letterman done any other acting?
I don't think so. I think that's David Letterman's only film appearance, not just as David Letterman.
Yeah, I wonder if he did it just because, it's his friend.
Well, yeah,
and just trying to raise the profile of this crazy project.
If I remember correctly, when it came out, because it was marketed, part of the marketing was that Dave Letterman had a cameo in it, and I felt like that's how it was pushed. Was he's helping out his buddy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What a fun, weird piece of our world history. Just the fact
they don't
that
teach you this part in school.
And then in the early 90s, they made this movie. People actually got paid to do this. And here we are. And Tim Burton was part of it, in Tim Burton's prime.
Right. Yeah. Well, this is the same year Ed Wood comes out.
Yeah.
So, which many might argue is in terms of Tim Burton's quality films.
Right.
The argument could be made that Ed Wood is his highest quality film.
It's great.
It's not.
I love it.
It might not be it's not my number one Tim Burton movie, but it is I think just it showed the potential.
What is your number one Tim Burton? Planet of the Apes?
Okay, well, Planet of the Apes is on a different level. So, my favorite Tim Burton movie is probably Batman. I just have I was the right age when that came out.
Totally.
And so that's probably my sentimental favorite. I think his actual best, highest quality movies are Ed Wood.
Mm-hmm.
Edward Scissorhands.
Yeah.
So the Eds.
Yeah.
The Eds have it. But it's Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
Right.
Beetlejuice could be my favorite Tim Burton movie. It's a tough call.
It's a really tough call.
It's my personal sentimental favorites are the Bees, either Beetlejuice or Batman. And my top quality Tim Burton movies are the Eds.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then Pee-wee.
Pee-wee is that one almost kind of can't
It's a
even,
separate category.
You can't even really compare it
Yeah.
to the rest of Tim Burton. And I've enjoyed Tim Burton. I enjoy Sleepy Hollow.
I liked Big Fish.
I think Big Fish was like his
The last of the, yeah.
Yeah, because after that, well, Planet of the Apes was before that.
Right, yeah.
But then you got into your Dark Shadows, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
The ones that just were like, this seems like a Tim Burton movie.
It was like where Tim Burton and Johnny Depp went to a hat store and we're like, let's find the hat first.
A wig
and then
store.
A hat and wig store.
Yeah.
It was like, all right, what crazy shit are we going to put you in now?
Yeah.
And that's where and I think it was, I feel like Tim Burton and Johnny Depp's career, and Johnny Depp's got his own issues.
Yes.
But I feel like their careers, like they were both in the early 2000s, really highly regarded. Like I think Big Fish was going to be like Tim Burton's Oscar movie.
Yeah, I could see that. I
think Albert Finney got a nomination.
I think he
for
did.
that.
Albert Finney was
Yeah.
excellent in that.
Oh yeah, Big Fish is a great movie. But and then Tim Burton, he did Dumbo recently.
He did Dumbo, Big Eyes.
Alice in Wonder. I never saw Big Eyes.
Big Eyes was okay. I'd say it's pretty good. It's a true story, and I like that it's not, I mean, here's the thing. I know that we are a podcast that talks a lot about reboots and remakes and things like that, where Tim Burton has kind of fallen into that world, especially with Planet of the Apes, Alice in Wonderland,
Dark Shadows.
Yeah, like he's really just gotten into that groove, and it just, there's just something that feels a little like, okay, that's kind of him now.
It's like Tim Burton kind of put it in cruise control about 15 years ago.
But then he does Big Eyes, which is a nice, refreshing, course change for him. And, you have Christoph Waltz, you have Amy Adams, and it's like, it should have been better. I don't know why it wasn't better. It just you watch it and you're just like, okay, all right. Like maybe if this had been made in the early 90s, it would have felt more appropriate.
Well, so Tim Burton obviously did not end up directing Cabin Boy, and I think he kind of strong-armed Adam Resnick into directing it himself. So, and one thing that Adam Resnick has said since then is that the movie was kind of written to be tailored to Tim Burton's strengths.
Which you can tell.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But even the music, so of course you can't say Tim Burton without thinking Danny Elfman.
Yeah.
The music for Cabin Boy is done by Steve Bartek, who was the, I think, lead guitarist for Oingo Boingo.
Oh.
So it's kind
of
of
where do I know that name? Yes.
It's kind of like, well, we don't have Tim Burton directing this movie, but it's Tim Burton style. We don't have Danny Elfman scoring it, but we have somebody else from Oingo Boingo. Not to discredit Steve Bartek's musicianship or abilities at all, but it's kind of like a...
No, look, this is a movie where you have a lot of really fun and funny people having a lot of fun. And it really shows, it plays to Chris Elliott's strengths. And, you see people like David Letterman acting and having fun and just being goofy, and a weird sock monkey salesman, which is what is going on?
And he's funny, and he just he messes with Chris Elliott.
Oh yeah,
so much, and it's funny because Chris Elliott's character is unlikable, so you really don't
totally
feel bad for him.
Yeah, no, yeah, you do not want this guy to get onto the Queen Catherine for a second.
No,
it's let's get this guy into some crazy antics immediately. So anyway, it's a really wild movie. It is currently streaming on Hoopla, which is free if you have a library card. I believe most libraries use it. I can't speak to anywhere outside of the United States, but maybe it's streaming somewhere else for you. I don't know.
It could be, or you could check out I think it was Kino Lorber that issued a like special edition Blu-ray a couple of years ago.
Or you can check out a dollar bin somewhere where it's like, oh, weird, Cabin Boy.
Yeah, it's. I mean, yeah. Although I can't tell you the last time I've checked out a dollar bin.
Yeah, I don't know either. Yeah,
but it's one of those movies that I don't think you often think about going back to, if it even comes up at all.
No, but I'm glad it exists. I'm glad that it has a bit of a cult following, and that it has, I don't know. I hope that it in some ways helped boost Chris Elliott's career.
Well, or it fortunately didn't ruin Chris Elliott's career.
Well, that's true.
But it's interesting. There's a lot, and there's like we were talking about some of the possible influence on current comedies like Barb and Star.
Uh-huh.
It's also interesting to note that Brian Doyle Murray's character wears this red skull cap, and I can't help but think of his brother Bill's iconic character Steve Zissou, and I'm like, did Bill Murray like?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Never know.
Did he come up with that? And
I don't know.
There are so many of these really interesting and funny scenes, and like Rust Hamblin is a half man, half shark.
That is the most amazing twist in this movie. Because I think that's the first thing that you see that's like truly bizarre.
Yeah, well, because doesn't that come? Don't we meet Chalky like during his hallucinations? Yeah. Which, oh boy, there's
God, it's crazy. It's a lot of fun. So Dan,
yeah,
all right. What would you do if you were given $1 zillion and they'd said do something with Cabin Boy?
$1 zillion. Wow.
Well, I don't know. Let's say I don't know. 10 million.
Well, you know what? Here's what I was thinking. I'm watching Cabin Boy, and I'm like, this would have been so funny, especially in 1994, if it had been done like, I'm saying like really like detailed, authentic in the style of a Merchant Ivory film.
Oh,
and for those who might not know what I'm talking about by a Merchant Ivory film, we're talking about these prestige period pictures that were often about wealthy British people in like the 18th and 19th, A Room with a View, Howard's End, The Remains of the Day, which I think that was also, Remains of the Day, I think was 93. But
okay.
I was thinking, I was like, man, had they done this like totally deadpan in the style of a Merchant Ivory film, that would have been hilarious, especially at that time, because it was always like the Oscar nominations were, all right, what's the Merchant Ivory Best Picture nominee going to be? And like, who's going to get, Miranda Richardson, Helena Bonham Carter,
right?
Anthony Hopkins, all of those actors. So it's like, what if like Richard E. Grant had played, played Nathaniel, and they had done this just like straight up Merchant Ivory. So I think I would actually I would do a remake, and I would try to I would remake it. I don't know how much of the actual script I would change, but I would use that money to I would Merchant Ivory it up.
Dan, I had the same exact idea. I don't think I was thinking like Merchant Ivory exactly, but I was thinking like prestige, like Ralph Fiennes as like the captain or something like that. Like I want the finest actors of the day to be in this. Play it like exactly beat for beat, characters exactly the same, but actually put the production value into it. That would make it so funny, because like by not doing it in a style any way similar to the original makes both of them funnier.
Mm-hmm.
I love it.
Take Cabin Boy and just, totally play it straight, but keep all of that. Keep all of like that, the weird stuff. Maybe not so much the like anachronistic elements like the microwave on the ship and the TVs.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe.
Or maybe just like have them there, but not, maybe like have that stuff without calling it out. Not that they really call it out, but just like a random, like imagine you're watching like Howard's End and you see a VCR in the background and no one says anything about it. No one, it's just like, oh, it's like, you know, there's the fine china and the candlesticks and there and the VCR. So, and then I don't know who you would have to, you know, you'd have like get the people who do Downton Abbey.
Right. Yeah. You know, and I'm trying to think of who could play Nathaniel, and I'm having a little bit of a hard time. Like Donald Gleason.
What about like Tom Holland?
I was thinking Tom Holland. I think he's too young, and I know he's also done dramas, but I think that he's too well known right now for doing high energy, fun characters.
Spider-Man.
Well, not just Spider-Man. I mean, like, you know, he's I think that even just like his personal life, like he's just known as being a personality as Tom Holland.
You know who would be good? Because the other thing about Cabin Boy is I would want to cast Nathaniel as younger.
I guess so. Because I think that what's funny about Chris Elliott is that he is older.
Well, and he's pretty much Chris Elliott in this. But like, what about like a Tom Hiddleston type?
Sure. Yeah. It's funny because like when you think about who like the biggest actors are, it's hard to not think about the cast of the Avengers.
Or like what Timothée Chalamet.
Could be Timothée Chalamet. I mean, you know, in Little Women, it'd be pretty much a very similar character.
But I mean, and I think like he can do comedy.
Yeah.
He would just need to do it really deadpan.
Yeah, bedpan.
You know, who else was I think? I feel like Ben Whishaw is another one, but I think he might be a little too old.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to figure out who the right Nathaniel would
Benedict
be.
Cumberbatch.
Well, I think that Benedict Cumberbatch would also be another good sailor or Chalky.
Well, he'd be Benedict Cumberbatch as Chalky.
Yeah.
I love your suggestion of Ralph Fiennes. I mean, Ralph Fiennes is one of our finest comic actors.
Yeah.
He has become,
it would also be great if like this was the
Fiennes.
movie that Daniel Day-Lewis came out of retirement for.
Oh, wow. No, then Daniel Day-Lewis as Chalky. Or as the sock monkey salesman.
Daniel Day-Lewis as Chalky's pretty great. Oh my God.
Look, anyone who has seen The Phantom Thread knows that Daniel Day-Lewis can be hilarious.
Phantom Thread, I watched again recently, is one of the best movies, period.
It's so good, and you don't expect it, even though it's a Paul Thomas Anderson movie.
I'm telling you, the first time I watched it, I didn't know how I felt about it until like the very end of the movie, and then I was like, this is the best movie. I was like, I don't know if I like this up until the very end. And I was like, I love this.
I was like, you know what? I'm like Paul Thomas Anderson is a brilliant director,
Right,
and
yeah.
I'm usually down for anything he does, and I'm usually down for anything that Daniel Day-Lewis is in. But Phantom Thread, I was like, do I really want to watch like this, like a Merchant Ivory movie with Daniel Day-Lewis as this designer? And then I'm watching, I'm like, oh damn,
Yes,
this
I do.
is great.
Yes, I do. Reynolds Woodcock. Best name.
You know who else I would like to throw in there as a sailor? And because you said Woodcock, for some reason it made me think of the movie Mr. Woodcock.
Oh, Billy Bob
Put
Thornton.
Billy Bob Thornton in there.
Yeah. It's tricky though too, because you know Billy Bob Thornton, even though he really made his career on movies like Sling Blade, or you know
Armageddon.
Well, yes, he's done movies like Armageddon, but also I think about movies like Woodcock, or I think about the Bad News Bears reboot.
Bad Santa.
And Bad Santa. And it's like, he's maybe more well known for those like curmudgeonly comedic movies.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone...
And it's a shame. It's a shame because, his dramatic works are excellent.
Well, Sling Blade, I mean, yeah.
Tremendous.
I haven't gone back to that movie in quite some time, but
I watched it a few years ago.
It's a powerful movie.
It certainly is, yeah. And I don't know. Anyway, I'm really hard pressed to think about who exactly would be the perfect Nathaniel.
How about Trina?
Trina. Well, here's who I would say for the like 6-armed woman. I was thinking Angelina Jolie, speaking of Billy Bob Thornton.
Oh, okay. All right.
For Trina,
who was I was thinking of someone for the 6-armed woman.
For Trina, would it be Saoirse Ronan?
Oh, okay. Yeah,
or she's still too young. I guess
I was thinking of Anna Kendrick.
Anna Kendrick. Nah, see, the thing is
too similar.
Too similar. Yes, too peppy. For something like this,
I think Saoirse Ronan.
Saoirse, yeah.
I apologize. Would be. I think she'd be great. Yeah.
I think that she's certainly done enough period pieces and dramatic turns that her career has been really founded on that type of role.
Right.
And speaking of her, and I know that we're not really talking too much about her, but like, it didn't occur to me how long I've been watching her in movies, where the first time I really noticed her was the Grand Budapest Hotel, but like she was in The Lovely Bones and Hannah.
Atonement was, I think, her first.
Yeah, but it's like I didn't realize that I had been watching her all this time until Grand Budapest Hotel was when I noticed her. And then she's really just been like one after the other, like totally killing it. Lady Bird, Little Women. What was the one that she... Oh, Ammonite. That's the one that she just did with Kate Winslet. So good. Like, she's excellent, and love her work.
Oh, so who as some casting options as the 6-armed woman?
Right.
Potentially, especially if you're going to throw a nod to the Merchant Ivory flicks, Helena Bonham Carter.
Sure.
Also, if you're going to throw a nod to Tim Burton's
Yeah.
movies. So Helena Bonham Carter. There was somebody else that I had in mind that I was like, oh, she'd be hilarious. Actually, you know who would be if you went in a totally different direction? Nicole Byer.
That's a totally different direction.
And you know what? Actually, mentioning Nicole Byer, I also had been thinking, I was like, oh, what about Gabrus as Nathaniel?
Boy?
Like Gabrus would be a funny Nathaniel.
Yeah, he'd be funny as any character in this movie.
Now, what would you do with Kenny with that role?
Oh, Andy Richter.
Just bring back Andy Richter.
Same character.
Yeah.
Age doesn't matter for him. I'd be really interesting to see Andy Richter just do the same thing again.
That would be fun to see Andy Richter.
What did you think?
I hadn't really thought about it. So, but that was why I came up. I was like, oh yeah, well, wait a second. That's another role that you would need to recast.
Anyway. So we are perfectly aligned on this idea. It's the only thing I thought of was just like, how funny would it be if it was just remade but done completely serious? And yeah, love it.
Well, geez, we're aligned on it. Has to happen now. Now it's so funny because I'm now like really. I kind of really want to see this now that we've been talking.
Oh, absolutely. Who wouldn't want to see this? Yeah.
Oh man.
I mean, even like I just want to like leak to like Deadline or like Slash Film or something like that there's a rumor going around that they're doing this just to like see it circulate. And to like hear the rumors. Like this is a rumor I want spread. The internet, whoever's listening, spread this rumor.
Like Merchant Ivory. I don't know who does the. I mean, Merchant Ivory did what? Call Me by Your Name.
Call Me by Your Name.
Wasn't that a merchant? Or like, was it one of them? Wasn't that James Ivory?
I don't know.
I think so. I think James Ivory wrote and directed Call Me by Your Name.
Maybe.
So,
I don't know. I mean, that is a movie that I really, really like. And I'm glad that I rewatched it just before all of the Armie Hammer stuff started coming out, because I got to watch it for one last time before now I don't think I could ever watch it again. And it's a beautiful movie. It's very well done. It's just like the tone of it is so great. Timothy Chalamet is awesome in it. And yeah, it's too bad that Armie Hammer is a creep.
It's hard. I mean, I haven't. I know a little bit about this situation, but yeah, I'm just baffled by it, and like I want to know more, but I feel like I either need to know everything or the little bit that I know right now, or that I think I know.
Well, we don't have to talk about it any further.
No, he's not. We're not considering him for this.
No.
So,
yeah.
Cabin Boy.
That's Cabin Boy. If you have any thoughts about it, feel free to email us, ruinchildhoodspod@gmail.com. You can find links to all of our social stuff on our link tree, which is linktr.ee, linktr.ee/ruinchildhoods. And Dan, why don't you tell us what we're doing on the next episode?
On our next episode, we are taking our first look at a John Waters film.
Yeah.
We have not talked about John Waters on this podcast, and John Waters, groundbreaking filmmaker whose work I think we're both fans of. Mm-hmm. And we are going to be revisiting his 1994 comedy Serial Mom.
That's right.
Starring Kathleen Turner.
Yes, I am excited. I haven't watched this movie since it came out on video, probably.
It's been a while for me, and there are parts of that movie that stand out that have been stuck in my head since I first saw it, and I'm glad that I haven't gone back and watched it, because there have been several times I've been tempted to. But I'm glad, because now watching it for this, it's just going to be that much more like fresh and new for me. So excited.
It'll be fun to take a little journey through. I'm assuming Baltimore. If I had to guess, I think probably the suburbs of Baltimore, maybe.
There's a safe bet. It's kind of like if it was Barry if it's Barry Levinson or John Waters.
Right. Yeah.
Chances are Baltimore is involved.
Yeah. Well, Dan, on your boat journey to Hawaii, I bid you a good journey.
Good journey.
When I first joined this tub, Captain said unto me, a fine cabin boy will train you to be. Just do as you're told and you'll get all your wishes with a wink and a